This will be a tutorial video for Broken Arrow, as I'm sure when the servers finally come back online, you will want to learn how to play. It is also just now going into open beta, so you might be curious where I am getting my experience and why you should listen to me. I have been actively playing RTS games for over a decade and was one of the most active creators in Wargame Red Dragon, a game that heavily inspires this game, where I made some friends with devs who went on to create Broken Arrow. As such, I have played in every single testing phase of the game, that was outside of the studio of course, for the last 2 and 3 years, and have hundreds of hours as well as hundreds of games played in it already. This is simply the first time that I get to share that with the public and show you guys footage. I am literally recognized by the developers as one of the most experienced players in the game at this time. That being said, perspective is good, and what works for me won't always work for you. Although I've played hundreds of hours already, this is my first attempt at teaching others how to play. This game also has one of the most brutal skill ceilings in gaming, along with games like War Thunder and Escape from Tarkov, so best of luck. The TLDR is, if you use these decks and just play the way you think you know how to play, you will still learn as you go. These decks force you to play a way that will make you understand the core concepts of combat in Broken Arrow and its features. So if you are a no BS, no tutorial kind of person, you will be able to copy these decks and just go play. You will get absolutely smoked and come back later, but you need to see that for yourself first and understand that you have no hope. You can download the deck files in the description when ready, or just copy the units in game as I talk about them in real time. It's up to you. So for those players who want to learn, as well as those who thought that they were good enough to just go and then returning after getting smoked, let's get started. You'll notice there is no artillery. Arty is the bane of new players' existence because you spend all your time and money using it because you can get kills with it while you're not buying or microing frontline units. You don't learn anything and it loses games. Learn to play and win without artillery before you use it at all, and you will have a better time. This is pretty limited air. ASF or air superiority fighters and unique bombs / weapons only. The same way Arty can get you into trouble, air can get you into trouble, except it's easier to use, and simply just using it on its own has its own effect on the game. If you have planes up, then it makes the enemy buy AA, and even if you get shot down, that's ammo and supplies being used while you get to learn what works and what doesn't. If you don't use planes, you lose, so you should use them, but they are artillery adjacent in my mind in terms of the trouble that it can be, or the trouble that it can get you into in terms of not learning anything. It's just better that you learn how to use and lose it sooner rather than later. When you're in a game, before you do anything at any time, you will ask yourself, do I have recon and do I have anti-air? If the answer is no, then your only priority is to change that to a yes. Recon in front on your right and your left, or if you see a piece of land that should be important to you because it's one of your flanks, just go stick a recon buggy over there or have a helicopter up. Do not have more than 3 units stacked at any given time. If your opponent sees anything, chances are they will try to hit it with artillery or bombs or both. If they see 3 or more units, you can guarantee they will try to hit it with artillery or bombs or both. As a new player, you'll be finding out the hard way what can and can't be seen at any given time, especially if the other player is very good at putting recon out. So once you get into a fight, pull the units back and always keep moving. If something shoots or you know it's seen, then move it. These decks focus heavily on small amounts of expensive units. A common issue with new players is that they will get sucked into micromanaging a lot of units and then forget to buy units, leaving them to use a surplus of points, which they'll spend on quad stacks of units that will die the same way. Expensive units will die because they are fundamentally playing badly. So now at least if you find yourself with a surplus of points to spend, it will only go to units that are very effective and easier to manage and understand. This video is simply discussing the decks and why I chose what I chose in them. How to play as these decks in detail will be in a different video for each deck. If you're choosing to build this deck along with me in the video and you have a different point value than I do, then you missed something, so rewind and watch it carefully. At the bottom right, selections as well as the unit amounts, that is very important. So if the numbers go red, you've gone over, and if the number is different in white on the left after you are done watching, then you've missed something. Again, rewind. We're going to start with Russia, and I suggest that you do too, as it's the more difficult nation in my opinion. You'll see people doing very well with the United States, as the SEP V3s and F-35s will roll games, but it's also the easier tactic. Playing as Russia will make you learn more about the game faster. The recon tab is mostly BRMs for recon with sniper squads and SARMUTs. The BRMs are pretty effective fire support while being able to see ahead, so it's simple and effective, which is what you should be interested in as a new player. Sniper squads are tough to see, which means that you can hide them, and same goes for the SARMATs, but they just move quicker and don't require transport because they're not infantry. For infantry, you are basically using them as support for your vehicles and tickets to buy vehicles. A lot of the time, you won't even use the infantry tab to get the vehicles, you can just use the transport tab. The Cornet M's are very effective against US tanks, potentially the best defense against them on the ground in my opinion. Learning how to use ATGMs effectively will be a priority in getting better at Broken Arrow. The Iglas don't have the range of the Verba manpads, but you can run them. They have smoke and they are full squads, meaning they have grenade launchers and LMGs, so they can stand alone against other infantry and light vehicles if needed. You can also bring them in useful, cheap fire support vehicles that are amphibious. You'll hear more about using those effectively in the gameplay video for these decks. The Motostrauki are one of the best infantry units in the game with their squad size, fire support, and RPG 28s that went alongside and especially behind Abrams can kill them on their own. The transports I've put them in is what you'll be using as a key unit in game, and those are the T-15s. These T-15s are monstrous and difficult to kill when supported properly. They can and will win you games. Next is vehicles, and as I will explain in the gameplay video, I believe it's more important than infantry in the current state of the game, so these will be your primary forces. The Armadas are a must. They are your strongest tank. The T-90Ms are second because they have APS, so when ATGMs are fired, they can shoot them out of the sky 4 times. They have 4 APS before you need to go reload them. I'll explain more about that in the gameplay video. The Hornets are for the Abrams that you find. 3 of these are about the cost of 1 Set V3, and they should be able to burn 1 down quickly when given the chance. Then we have the support tab with AA and logistics. The Pantsir, when it has its radar on, can reach helicopters at ridiculous distances. You can choose to change this up a little bit, as the Duravitsias usually get the job done and they're usually useful fire support. The Buck M3, even with the radar off, is very effective surface-to-air missiles. The Duravitsias have the same 57mm cannon that will be used with your BRMs and your T-15s, while also now being able to engage helicopters and ground units. Then when you turn the radar on, it can effectively engage planes and incoming cruise missiles while being able to reach out to helicopters further. And then on top of that, when used on the front line, can sacrifice itself if you get seeded, and then keep your more important AA behind it alive, which we'll discuss in the gameplay video. The Kamazes are for supplies as well as extra troop transport if required. The Cessnas are solid IR AA, meaning that you won't need radar on and it can still do its job effectively, and it can't get seeded. It's also amphibious. As I explained before, no arty, trust me, it's for the best. If you can reach something that you need to kill, then find a way to get it on the ground. Worst case, bomb it. Now, helicopters are fickle. The Mi-26 and Mi-8s are supply and transport. The Mi-28 NMs with Elmers are the best ATGM helicopter in the game in my opinion, with great vision for recon purposes, similar reasoning for the Ka-52, but it just has more ATGMs. I'm opting for 2 Mi-28Ns with the optics package though, so that you can use them for recon. They're also nice bait because enemy players will think it's an expensive helicopter. They'll just see Mi-28 when it's only 150 points, so even less than half the price of the one that they're probably trying to come and kill. Learning how to use these choppers correctly will win you games. Then last but not least, we have the air tab. I have 2 Su-57s in there with 4 R-37s. These are the longest range air-to-air missiles in the game. These will give you the best buffer to learn how to fight air-to-air, as the Su-57s are the most survivable and you have the best range. They are expensive though, so you can almost buy an Armada for their cost, so it will be an expensive lesson if you throw it away. If you want to change things up, you can also put 2 seed missiles on there with 2 R-37s. I would rather that you guys do the 2 R-37s and then learn how to air-to-air, as again, that will give you the best buffer to learning that. The Su-30 has a single cab 1500 on it, and this is so that you don't use it as a crutch. When you really need something dead, or you're worried because your flank is getting pushed or something, then call this in and drop a cab on it. That's all you need to do for learning, and I'll explain more in the gameplay video. The Su-25 is just because there's extra points. It's just super cheap ground attack plane, which you'll be able to use to learn about air-to-ground missiles and such. So that was the Russian deck, and here is the US deck. Starting with recon, we have the best ATGMs in the US with the Javelin on these Cav Scouts. The Bradleys are useful fire support, useful recon, and can take some hits because of the armor and the APS. The Scout Snipers will teach you about hidden recon infantry. The Beefist Bradleys have the longest range for recon and can also laze targets for your jets. The IFAVs are cheap, sneaky recon that don't need transport, but have Mark 19s so that you can do a bit of damage against light vehicles or AA if you come across. Next, we have infantry, and again, I am mostly using them as support to the other tabs with the exception of the Marine Raiders. These are very sturdy and very powerful squads, which I will use for certain tactics I'll explain in the gameplay videos. These mech riflemen have stingers, so I'll be calling them stinger teams, and they are useful as man-pads or man-portable air defense. And the Bradleys that they come in are very effective fire support, as well as again having APS. The Saber teams are solid ATGMs, which will help you learn how to effectively use ATGM squads, which is important. The mech engineers come in Bradleys with Balam launchers. These infantry come with shotguns and high explosive launchers, so they are very good at killing infantry and light vehicles. However, the Bradleys, they come in, are amazing at it because these are bunker busting launchers that they have. So very important units. I'll explain more in the gameplay videos for this deck. Now we have the tanks. 2 Sep V3s, 4 Sep V2s, both with trophy and no Tusk armor so that they're cheaper. As I will explain in the gameplay video, you won't be needing the Tusk armor if you use these the way that I'm explaining that you should use them. There's points left over, so I put the FEP up there, just no trophy because I can't use it. The M60 is there for tank bait and 2 extra smokes. Those Seps will be your most important units. If you're doing this correctly, you won't even buy FEPs or the M60. For support, you take 4 M Shorad Bradleys. These will eat 2 seed missiles each, sometimes even survive 2, which most of the time is the entire amount of seed missiles that a single plane can take. They can also reach out and hit helicopters from very long range, as well as engage vehicles with those Hellfires. The LAVAD is effective as fire support with its cannon and has stingers, which it will shoot 2 times at a time very quickly. It's good against helicopters and pesky planes that are directly above it. The Patriots are your best plane AA, very effective with radar on and somewhat effective with it off. The LVSR is for logistics and for extra troop transport if required. Next is helicopters. The Viper has good vision while packing some Hellfires and Sidewinders for chopper and plane deterrence. The 2 Super Cobras are just cheap Sidewinder carriers in my mind and are used the same way as I use the Mi-28s with the Russian deck. They are basically just bait. Somebody might come after it thinking it's an expensive helicopter, where in this case it's got 2 Sidewinders, so it might even kill the plane outright easily, and it's only 125 points, so it's actually really cheap. We'll talk about that more in the gameplay video. The 2 Osprey are there for transport and logistics. They are very fast air units there. Well, if you want to call them helicopters, they're helicopters. Last but not least, the air tab with the 2 F-35s with JSOWs and an F-18 with AMRAAMs and Sidewinders. The F-35 will stun, if not kill, whatever vehicles are troubling you, especially if you laze them, and the F-18 can help when planes and or choppers are being annoying, as the Sidewinders will 2-shot choppers if they hit. This has 4 of them. Same goes for the AMRAAMs, which are of course for planes. Neither are your priority though, and I'll explain that in the gameplay videos. Speaking of the gameplay videos, I'll explain that again. I will have a video for each of these decks and how you should play them in order to learn the most. You'll want to take advantage of that, seeing as the servers keep going down, so you're going to want to value the games that you do get. Those videos for each deck will be in the description and on the screen. I already gave you a few good ideas with each of the units, so some of you might try from here. If you do, I suggest that you take it slow and focus on ground units. Push tanks and don't push unless you have recon and AA. Otherwise, good luck. Probably see you soon. This is one of the first of many videos about Broken Arrow. So to support what I do, I have a Patreon link below, which I just started today, but when it's got people in it, this is where I'll thank them, as well as at the start of each video. If you want to give me feedback or yell at me, the comment section is there, and you can come by my streams on Twitch. Otherwise, click the buttons on the screen, and thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a nice day. See you guys.